And we are live once again for episode 2 of the Tennis Galaxy podcast. I am your host Prasad Bhutkar. Joining me are the two very special die-hard fans again from the United States, Rajke and Prakash. Hi guys, how are you doing? How has your week been so far? Enjoying the French Open?
Of course,
Hi,
it's the
Prasad.
first Grand Slam of it's the second Grand Slam, but it's the first Grand Slam of summer. It's a great time to be a tennis fan, with the double French Open and Wimbledon. So yeah, enjoying the start of the clay and grass Grand Slam season.
Prakash, how about you?
Hi, Prasad. Yeah, definitely, uh, this like starts the summer, and we got this sets the tone for the other two Grand Slams. So definitely very excited, and it's been a pretty good week, with all the top players getting to quarterfinals. With you have
We yeah we
several of
had
the top eight seeds in the
yeah
quarterfinals.
Yeah, and we had our predictions and stuff in the first episode. Some of them were correct. Some of them, I think, all of them went. I think we were just close enough, isn't it? Predicted Tsitsipas Federer, but wow, it's Wawrinka. I think Del Potro was supposed to be knocked out in the very first or second round, but he's got to the fourth round. Anyway, that's fun, and
Right.
we'll be talking about all the first four rounds and to structure the podcast a little bit and what I've received in my feedbacks. Let's go player by player, isn't it? We are through to the quarterfinals. Rajke,
Right.
can you give our listeners what the quarterfinal lineup looks like? All the eight players.
Okay, so we have Djokovic against Zverev, and
Hmm.
then we have Thiem against Hatsunov.
Hmm.
We have Nadal against Nishikori, and then to complete things, we have Federer against Wawrinka, an all Swiss battle there.
Yep. Yep. Susan Langen Arena, memories of 2015. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's the lineup you heard, guys, and the eight players that have made it to the French Open. We'll be talking about their first four rounds now, starting with the world number one. Here's when Rajke gets all excited about the podcast. He is for the entire episode, but Rajke, all over to you. Starting with Djokovic and his performances so far. What have you made of them so far
So
compared to the ATP? Yeah.
it's a very interesting slam this for Djokovic because Djokovic normally has a habit or a tendency to play not his best in the earlier rounds of slams and then raise his level. We saw that in Australia, for example, when he was so wonderful against Nadal in the final and also in the semi-final as well. But here we have a Djokovic who's been playing very well since round one. In the last match against Struff, absolutely fantastic, 6-3, 6-2, 6-2. And in the post-match interview, Djokovic was saying that that's perhaps as good as he can play. So now the question is, this is the guy who always raises his level. Is he going to raise his level and become untouchable? Or is this going to be an aberration? Or
Hmm.
is there going to be a fall in his level? So that's what struck me the most about Djokovic's performances so far.
Perfect, perfect. Prakash, you are known for the numbers. What have you made
Yeah.
so far from Djokovic's first four rounds? Is there
So
something
I mean,
instant? Yeah.
yeah, he's been in tremendous form. Djokovic has been hasn't dropped a set. I think him and Federer both have not dropped a set yet. In
Yep. Almost very close, but haven't. Federer was very close, but hasn't. Yes.
right, and one thing to note is also that we thought I think Djokovic's path was going to be much tougher than this.
Hmm.
And if you look at it, I think we had Query, Simone, and it was a fourth round. There was
Chorich was the third, I
George
think.
was a
Yeah.
guy, and none of them he had to face. So, but of course, that doesn't take anything away from his form, which is perhaps right now. I think so far, right? If you had to pick, he's been the guy in the best form. But also, I think going ahead, I think his draw looks the toughest because he'll have to play Zverev and then Thiem, and then of
Ve-
course the winner of Federer Nadal.
Very
So
well. Yeah. Zverev and then Thiem, and then the winner of Federer Nadal. So yes,
right.
but and Rajke, do you think the levels have been raised? I mean, we saw, we know what Djokovic did and what he is capable of. Do you think the levels have been raised?
So it's a bit difficult to say honestly with his opponents, right? I mean, he's playing fantastically well, but he still hasn't been tested so far.
Hmm.
And it's going to be so his level doesn't need to be raised much, honestly, for him to win the French Open. As he said, he can't play much better than this. But the point is, his
Huh.
opponent levels they're going to definitely be raised. And how does that affect his level? For example, if you're going to play against Thiem and Nadal, right? You may be playing your best game, but those guys are going to react, and then you have to react to them, right? That's the great thing about the sport. There's an interplay, there's a matchup issue that happens between matches. So it's difficult to say because this really he hasn't faced anybody so far. I'm not sure that that's a great thing. He's done what
All
he
right.
could, to be
All right,
honest.
and yeah, and so Djokovic has Zverev in sights, and then he waits for maybe possibly a TM matchup in the next round, and then going on to face Nadal or Federer in the final.
Right.
And that draws our attention to the second world rank number two player in the world, Rafael Nadal. And
Hmm.
Rafael Nadal's draw, we all discussed how it was in the first episode. I think everyone agrees to the fact that he had a easy draw. But let's make of what his journey has been so far in the French Open. Prakash, starting with you. How has Nadal fared? And he dropped a set, isn't it, to
Right.
Goffin? Um,
Right.
yeah.
That's right. But I think, yeah, so just like how we thought, I think Djokovic's draw was going to be tough. We thought, Nadal had the easiest draw, which I think, but I mean, he did. But I mean, relatively, if you look at it, I think he had the toughest third round match, the big
Hmm.
three,
Hmm.
with Goffin. And obviously, that shows in the fact that he dropped a set.
Hmm. Hmm.
And But apart from that, of course, he's been spotless.
Yeah, and I
And I
think the only one of the top three to drop a set, but
drop a set.
as we know that matchup was a tough one,
Right.
and
I think that was the toughest match the big three had this week was had to be Goffin. No? He was the best player I think they had faced. So yeah, I mean he seems to be where he needs to be because as they say, you may not be able to win the slam in the first week, but you can certainly lose it. And he hasn't lost it, so he's still there
hmm,
and is
hmm,
ready, I guess, for the last three rounds.
hmm.
And
Uh,
take
Rajke, surprisingly, no bagels this time for Nadal's opponents. If you look at Halfman in the first round, just 6 games dropped by him, but it was 6-2, 6-1, 6-3. Then
Uh-huh.
Madden 6-1, 6-2, 6-4. So the bagels haven't come this French Open in the first week for Nadal, isn't it? I mean, he's a player who will just go on a rampage 6-0, 6-1, 6-2, hardly dropping 3 or 4 games in against the qualifiers, I suppose. What have you made of his performances from the first 4 rounds?
So Nadal hasn't played his best, according to me. But hey, this is Nadal. I mean, if he plays his best, we may as well stop watching because it's going to be a demolition, you know. So he's been good enough to win. And again, a bit like Djokovic, he hasn't really faced an absolute top quality player. But again, this is just 4 rounds.
Hmm.
David Goffin took a set off him, which was a bit of a surprise to me because Goffin himself hasn't really been in that great a form. Of course, a former top 10 player, but he's ranked 27th. He's seeded
Yep. Yep.
7th for the
Hmm.
tournament. And one thing I have to say, and Prakash, I'm keen to hear what you think about this scheduling of Roland Garros. To me, it's it's just completely disastrous. You know, you have Nishikori here. He's played two
yeah,
five setters in a row, and because of the scheduling, he had to play today, and he's going to play tomorrow as well against Nadal. I mean, is that fair? You need all help when you play Nadal, and you definitely don't want to play two, days in a row, and that makes Nadal's job easier. So I think Nadal's going to definitely be in the semifinal. I just can't see Nishikori beating him. So I think his level is enough probably for the semifinal, and I think probably for the final as well. So
Hmm.
that's it.
Hmm. So yeah, Prakash, what are your thoughts on it? He said like he's keen to hear from you.
right. The scheduling, yeah, I mean, it's always been an issue, I guess, like, with all of the Grand Slams, you can say. Especially with French Open, I think they don't have the roof. So
Hmm.
I think they're
Hmm.
going to get one next year.
Hmm.
And the
But,
lights too,
Hmm.
lights,
Hmm.
lights.
right, right. So hopefully that will help. But right now, of course, I think, but then also, I think you got to say, you know, Nishiko did not do himself favor by, you know, playing a five setter. I mean, I know it's not in his hands entirely, but I think, part of
Hmm.
the thing is also that he couldn't finish it, you know, in a
Hmm.
straight sets or like, the it. You can say that, it's not like he played a three-set match and had to play, over 2 days, right?
That's true,
So,
but the point is, unless
so
you play straight set, you can't even play four sets. So, and these are round four matches, right? So Benoit Paire, his
true,
opponent, was not really a very awful
true.
player.
Yeah, they could have done. I think they could have put them on Philippe Chatrier, right? 2 day when their fourth round match, instead of waiting for Wawrinka and Tsitsipas to finish.
Hmm.
I think their match started after that, so instead they could have moved them. But then
I
there's a
think they had a
French
women's
player,
match going on in Philippe Chatrier.
Hmm. Hmm. All.
Chatrier.
So they,
Yeah.
they really should use more, codes for this. And it almost happened again. Like Del
Right,
Potro, Hasano luckily finished in four.
Hmm.
Otherwise,
right.
Hasano would have had to probably play
From
tomorrow and then the
Oh
day
yeah.
after.
tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
So
exactly. And
that is true.
yeah, we were speaking about recording an episode today, like right now, morning, the Indian Standard Time, 6 a.m. And normally the last week has seen the final game suspended and taken into the next day. So when I was chatting with Prakash, I was telling him, hopefully we have all the eight quarterfinalists before we do around the second episode of the podcast. And luckily we have, and that finished in four. But let's move on now to the big man from from Switzerland, and he is none other than Roger Federer. So that's where Prakash starts his analysis and his take on how Federer's tournament has been, surprisingly, because he was potentially touted to face Schwartzman, who was taken
Right.
out. So we had all our predictions going down the drain. But
That was me,
anyway,
backing Schwartzman. He let
Schwartzman,
me
yeah,
down.
but many there were many surprises, isn't it? I mean, Schwartzman was supposed to be there, but he wasn't. And
Right.
surprisingly, Rude put up a good fight there in that game. I mean, I was nervous. I could not move from my spot. I was glued to it. I was glued to my phone and not missing a single moment of that game. What have you made of Federer's performances so far in the first four rounds?
Mhm. Yeah. So Federer, yeah, I think we again the draw kind of opened up with Schwartzman and Gulbis not getting where we thought we would, but where we thought they could. But but as I said, the root match I think was a pretty good test, and it basically I would say it's a good match to have. That kind of a match you need,
Hmm,
you know,
hmm,
to
hmm.
kind of help you be ready for the bigger matches. But I guess for all the big players, basically the tournament really starts right now. This is it.
Yep,
These last three matches.
yep.
That is all what it is all about. Because as I said, you could lose it in the first week, but you know you can only, I mean, win it in the second week. So this is now
Correct,
where
correct.
they all want to be, and I think Federer will particularly will be happy that he hasn't dropped a set,
And
and
to
he's
look at the numbers there. Sonejo 6-2, 6-4, 6-4. Otta 6-4, 6-3, 6-4. The only tiebreak he played was against Rude, which
right,
Rude was, both of them were quite impressive there. Rude was quite impressive, only for a double fault there towards the end
right,
to hand him
right,
match points and then serve out the match. And then the
right.
Meyer game I thought would be a bit more competitive, but that went in a flash. 6-2, 6-3, 6-3. There are some records that
Yeah,
Federer accomplished this week. Prakash, can you share those with us?
yeah, definitely. I mean, always as always, right? Federer and these guys when they step on the court, they do put up these stats. But yeah, so Federer, he's made the quarterfinal of the French Open for the 12th time, and he tied at that time the most quarterfinals at French Open, which is already shared by Nadal and Djokovic. But then, of course, now those two guys have now 13 because those two guys are back, and Djokovic in particular is now done something. He's the first player to have 10
Yeah.
consecutive quarterfinals at Roland
Yes.
Garros,
Yes. Yeah. I
and
was.
yeah, and I mean, you have also that he is. a 25 match win streak in the Grand Slams, which he's the first player to have like three separate win streaks of 25.
Hmm.
And of course, he has got now, he's also tied Nadal for the most quarterfinals at French Open with 13. And Nadal himself has now 13 quarterfinals at French Open. And he also gets 90 match wins
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
the at the French Open, which
Correct.
puts him in like only four players have on the ATP tour had 90 or more wins at a single slam. So Federer has that at Australian Open and Wimbledon, where he has
97 and
97,
yeah, 97 and
95 wins
95.
respect.
Yes.
And Connors has at the US Open that's the most wins for a particular player at one single slam with
Hmm.
98.
Hmm.
And now Nadal is like, the French Open is the first player to be getting to
N-
90 wins.
90, 90, yes.
Yes.
How
So,
behind are Djokovic and Federer there? Very far behind? Any?
I believe Federer is at 69 wins.
Yep.
And I think Djokovic is right behind him with 68,
So that
if I
there are
remember.
still a couple more, more than two, three French Open still to play to get to 90. Even if you win all those,
Right.
so
Although
Nadal,
yeah.
so the record belongs to Nadal then for a long, long time then, and
Oh yeah, definitely. As
yeah,
we would
and
expect.
yep, yep. So Djokovic, Rajke, 10 consecutive quarterfinals at the French Open. Not even Nadal could do it. We could thank Soderling later.
Yeah,
But
Soderling, and also in 2016, he withdrew from the tournament because of an injury. Right.
mhm.
So there is that as well. So
So yeah, so all in all, a good week for the top three. Apart from
Yes.
Rafa, who dropped the set because he potentially had the toughest matchup of all the top three. All the bottom line is all of these are in the quarterfinals, and let's quickly go to their opponents now before we speak about anyone else. Rajke, Stan Wawrinka in there, the 2015 French Open champion. We have some memories of him knocking out Federer in 2015 on the same court which they are about to play today. What have you
uh-huh.
made of Stan Wawrinka's French Open?
So
Do you see him as a dark horse there, coming out of nowhere and going away with the big slam because he had a classic with Tsitsipas in the last round.
well, actually, because of that, I think it's less likely that he goes away with the slam, right? Because remember, this is a guy who's just played a 5-hour match.
Hmm.
Okay, and then now his draw is Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic.
Hmm.
If he can do that, this could potentially be the greatest Grand Slam victory of all time. I don't think
Yes.
anyone's ever beaten the big three back
Hmm.
to back to
Hmm.
win a slam. And that too, coming back to the tour from an injury and then
Yep.
having had a 5-hour match just before.
Yep.
I am the biggest. I am a big Stan fan. Let's
Hmm.
not say the biggest because there may be even bigger fans than me. But I think this is beyond him. What do you feel, Prakash?
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, it's a very tall lineup that he's faced again. And if you look at it, he's already beaten Tsitsipas and
Dimitrov as well.
Dimitrov and the player before him too. Was it Garin? Is
Garin,
it?
Garin, right?
Yeah,
The
Garin is
Chilean Garin.
also
Yeah.
who's like he's had a pretty good clay season. So I mean, if you look at it, that would be I mean, it would be a terrific achievement if he can now run this through, and especially beating Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic like it's
Hmm.
projected to be.
Hmm.
Maybe he might get fortunate and say, maybe Djokovic doesn't make the final. That would be his best shot. But I think looking at it and looking at the form the big three are in, I think it's hard to see him do that. But you know, yeah, I mean, it would be something to if he makes that happen, right? It
So yeah,
should be
so
a
excellently put
real
there.
good thing.
Yeah, yeah. So excellently put by both of you. I think it will be one of the greatest Grand Slam, probably the greatest Grand Slam wins in the modern era if that happens, taking out the top three. But that seems beyond him. But we'll just have to wait for that. But the second quarterfinal today is Rafael Nadal with versus Kei Nishikori. Has Nishikori surprised every one of us reaching there, or was he? We potentially, I think, had him in the quarterfinal draw against Nadal, isn't it?
No, I think I had Medvedev there instead of
Hmm.
Shapovalov.
Yeah, me too.
Hmm.
We thought
Hmm.
Medvedev would make it there, and I thought Pair would be my
Yeah, yeah,
second pick. I wasn't, and he almost made it, but
yeah. He almost made it. Correct.
yeah, but
And Prakash, you
Medvedev
also
was my
mentioned Dier, the Serbian guy as well, who was
yeah. Dia
Nishikori.
was the other guy I had, so I was not expecting Nishikori to make it all the way, but which he has had a couple of five setters that he had on the way, so I mean he's in a way fortunate enough to make it, but yeah, definitely. I mean, he was. We knew he was seeded enough to get there, but we had some questions, but definitely he's answered them and he has made it there. But I
True.
think it stops there. I do not see him, especially with the scheduling and everything. It's hard to see him really go any further.
Yeah, and we spoke about how the five setter is going to play the affect the players now
Right,
going into the second week, the business end of the week, as I like to
right.
say it. So
Yep.
these are potentially the matches today. Wawrinka
Yes.
versus Federer on Suzanne Lenglen and Philip Chartier has Nishikori versus Nadal. Moving
Hmm.
on to Wednesday, moving on to tomorrow's lineup, Thiem versus Khachanov, and those are two
Yes.
players we haven't spoken about. And the other player that we have to speak about is Alexander Zverev. So we
Right.
start. So let's start off with Dominic Thiem. Potentially, can he go on and win the big one, or what have you guys made of his first four rounds? Then.
Yeah. So theme has been. Yeah, I think definitely. I thought. I mean, he was going to find it a little tough, but I mean, he did struggle initially. But I think he's, especially the last match against Moonfish, he was really playing some really good tennis.
Hmm.
So I think he's peaking at the right time.
Hmm.
And we know he's like made the final last year, and he was in the semifinals the year before. So if that he keeps up the improvement, I think definitely he can go all the way.
Yep.
And he's got a big break with Del Potro not making, and Kachanov. So although Kachanov is obviously going to be a tough player to beat, I think Thiem would prefer to play him and not Del Potro, and he got him. So, but yeah, so I think Thiem is got where he is where he wants to be right now, and it's about him now keeping up that level of tennis for the next three rounds.
So
And
Raj,
it wouldn't hurt him if he, maybe Zverev takes Djokovic out,
yeah.
or
So
someone else takes out Nadal.
the top five players are in the quarterfinals, and Raj K. Monfils. If you watch the Monfils game yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
from 4-0 up, 4 love up in the first,
Uh,
we came back to 5-3, potentially a 5-4 in
mm-hmm.
favor of team, and then he served out the set. It was almost that he was running through the set, and then Monfils came back, and Monfils came back in bits and parts that really didn't affect team. But what have you made of team's tournament so far?
So my take on Thiem is actually a little bit different from Prakash. I think Thiem has gone the opposite way to Djokovic here. He's been a bit inconsistent.
Hmm.
So predicting Thiem's future performances depend on what you think he's going to do. Is he going to maintain or is he going to lift his game? I think he has to lift his game because if he plays like he has till now, including the way he played against Game of Face, I don't think that he's going to make the final here. I think his 6-4, 6-4, 6-2 win may
Hmm.
sound very impressive against Morpheus,
Hmm.
but I think that has more to do with how Gale didn't exactly play the best he can. And
Hmm.
it's not a good matchup for Gale Morpheus. He doesn't have a good record against TM. And Prakash did mention that TM did not have to play Verdasco and Del Potro. And we mentioned last time that TM had 0-4 records against both of them. So I would have been very impressed if he had, if he had played Verdasco, and then he's not going to have to play Del Potro. Actually, that would have been the next round. So that those things are in his favor that he's avoided, his tough opponents. But it really comes to an end in the semifinal if he's got to play Djokovic. With current form, I don't see Thiem beating Djokovic here. He has a chance, but I wouldn't have him as a favorite. No.
Hmm.
And even if he does that, remember, we talked about this last time. It's really tough to beat Djokovic and Nadal back to back. So I
Yep.
don't see
Yep.
him lifting
Correct.
the trophy. No.
Hmm. Hmm. Prakash, let's go on to Alexander Zverev then, and
Yeah.
his performances so far in the French Open. I think last night he dropped a set against Fonini, the first set,
Yes.
and then came back to win the other three 6-2, 6-2, 7-6 on a tiebreak.
Yeah.
Alexander Zverev potentially reaching his first Grand Slam then this Roland Garros or the other way?
So he's got the toughest possible way to do it if he has to get to the semi-final. He's playing Djokovic next,
Yep.
and I think what helped Zverev, I think we talked about this, was he won Geneva, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the week before, he took, I think, a last-minute wild card into that, and he struggled there, but he had like very good wins, and he obviously started off with a five-setter here, right where he left off last, French Open.
Hmm.
I think he played like three five-setters last French Open before turning up in the quarterfinal very fatigued against Thiem.
Hmm.
And that was his first Grand Slam quarterfinal. And now he makes the second Grand Slam quarterfinal again on clay at French Open. So, but I think he has at least now he's not as fatigued as he was last year. But
Yep.
of course, the task is that much more tougher because it's Djokovic waiting there and not Thiem. So
Correct.
uh, I would say, like, yeah, I think even both me and Raj Kamal, we picked Fonini to
Hmm.
get through this quarter
Yeah.
and face Djokovic. And we were not sure, no, Alexander Zverev was going to keep up or defend his quarterfinal points, but he did that. So now, yeah, he has enjoyed some success against Djokovic, and he has beaten him in some pretty big matches,
Hmm.
and including Clay. That's where he first announced his arrival. In 2017 Rome final, and he
Hmm.
beat Djokovic in straight set. And of course, yeah, Djokovic was nowhere near the form he is right now when they played that. But he also beat him last year at the year-end championship final in London. That
Hmm.
was
The
also in
World Tour
straight
final.
sets. Yeah, the World Tour final. So he's got the wins and the potential, but yeah, it's going to really step it up big time if he is going to get this win.
Yeah, I'm seeing the previous tournaments he's played. He's won in Geneva,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and he lost to Berrettini in the Madrid Open in
Right.
the round of 32. So Alex
Uh,
Zverev, they're reaching there. Like you said, the last time he played three five setters. This time he has two. We
mhm.
almost went to a fifth one last night. But
Right.
their path to the final is very difficult, knowing the fact that they have the best of best to play. So that's about Thiem, that's about Zverev, and focusing more on Wednesday there. Khachanov has been an impressive addition there to the quarterfinals. I think a lot of us predicted Del Potro, or Prakash predicted Del Potro to crash out in the first round.
Yes,
But
I would, Nick. I was hoping my pick Nicholas Jarry, who's the finalist
yeah,
at Geneva.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
thinking he would build on that.
yeah. But so, Prajke, all over to you then. Hachanov, the number 10 seed here, making it through to the quarterfinal, now faces Dominic Thiem. What do you make of the quarterfinal lineup, and how has he been in the first four rounds?
So this is a player that I like. I mentioned last time about Medvedev, very promising Russian player, and Hatsanov is another one of those. His technique is a bit unconventional, particularly his forehand. It takes a bit of getting used to, but this guy's got power of both wings, of the forehand and the backhand, and we saw that plenty today in the match against Del Potro. It went to four sets, but I think it could even have been over in three sets. And Del Potro wasn't playing very badly at all. So I think
Hmm.
Hatsune has excellent chances. And I mentioned a while back that Thiem is not hit Thiem's top form. So
Hmm.
Hatsune is definitely going to have chances in that quarterfinal against Thiem. And I think that's going to be the closest quarterfinal, the toughest one to call. At this point of time, I think I'm inclined to pick Hatsune over Thiem. But after that, it really gets difficult if it's going to be Djokovic and Nadal. But
Hmm.
I do like his chances against Thiem so far.
Yeah. So we've spoken about all these eight players and
Yeah,
how
there's
they've
a
fared. Yeah, Prakash.
Prasad,
Yeah,
regarding Kachanov, right?
yeah.
He's on a 10-match winning streak in Paris because he
Oh
won the
yes,
Paris indoor.
yes. I wanted
Trivia,
to talk about that as well. Yeah.
trivia alert, stat alert. Sorry, stat alert. Stat
Right,
alert is that Khachanov is on 10 match win streak there. Yes.
right. And he won Paris indoors, beating Djokovic in the final. So it looks like Paris seems to be. I mean, he won his first Masters in Paris,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, given his game, and I particularly don't think this is his best surface, the clay. But hey, he's there, right?
I loved
And
correct, and I
yeah,
loved the matchup last night. I mean, it was a Thor one versus Thor two, both of them going at it, the
oh
battle
man,
of
yeah,
power last night. You know
exactly,
who can hit it more harder, and
yeah,
who can connect. And Kachanov was
and
all over Del Potro for a long period of time there.
right,
And
and other
this
thing that's going to help,
23-year-old guy,
yeah,
now he's forget about what he does in this tournament. He's got plenty of time on his side, and I think he's going to be one of the really good players. There's going to be Tsitsipas, there's going to be Felix in the future, there's going to be Hatsuno, there's Zverev. So, the big three are going to retire at some stage, hopefully later than sooner. But, it's wonderful to see these promising, talented youngsters showing up, and Hatsuno is someone I really like, as I said a while back.
And
so there's
yeah,
another thing that will help
yeah,
Kachanov,
yeah.
and I think to some extent Wawrinka too, is that it's going to be the rest of the week, right? It's overcast and cold, so I think this is going to play more like a slow hard court,
Hmm.
and the movement to some extent, right, is not going to be as important. I mean, because you will not be able to slide so freely as you would be able to on a dry day,
Hmm.
and power hitters like Kachanov are going to be like at an advantage. So, but today is like I think it's predicted high of like almost near 80.
Hmm.
But Kachanov plays tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep, he does. He does
I'm
against him.
yeah, I'm seeing like a high of 60 Fahrenheit, and then yeah, the whole week is like it's overcast. I look at it. Friday is they show rain and high of 66, and Sunday is the same. Rain, potential rain and 66. So I think if the weather pattern holds,
Hmm.
it's going to be yeah advantage a little or definitely helpful to guys who crush the ball like Kachanov, maybe Thiem, I would think, and Wawrinka definitely would love these conditions. So
Hmm.
yeah, that could play a factor too. So
So let's get straight to the quarterfinals then, and the two big ones coming up today involving Federer and Nadal. Federer versus Wawrinka, the first one, and then the Nishikori versus Nadal. I think we all have predicted what happens in the second one, but what are your thoughts on the first one, Federer versus Wawrinka? Rajke, let's start with you this time.
Okay, so I mentioned that Wawrinka, I don't think that he's going to win the tournament, but that's only because he has to play the big three back to back. If you just look at this particular match, I have to favor Federer. He's playing really, really well. But I saw Federer's press conference, and then journalists were asking him about the 2015 match. And Federer was saying that Stan was playing unbelievably well then. And as you say, it's on the same court, right? So both players know how dangerous Stan is when he peaks,
Hmm.
right? And so for
Hmm.
one match, he can do that. So I'm going to say it's still more likely to be Federer, but nowhere near as, much of a
Easy as
favorite as
yeah,
Nadal is.
yeah, yeah.
So.
Okay. Okay. Prakash, anything? Yeah, do you add there on the quarterfinals, Federer versus Wawrinka?
yeah, I mean I am thinking ahead. I think I picked Federer to the semifinals. Did I? So I think yeah. Uh, I think Federer beats Wawrinka in maximum 4 sets. I don't think he'll lose more than a set.
Bold prediction from
Yeah,
Prakash. And
and yeah, I'm thinking, of course, Nadal is going to win in straight sets against Nishikori. Be
do you
very
see a
surprised if
do you guys do any of you see a bagel coming up for Nishikori? Seeing the end,
very. I would
the
think so.
I'm
the
worried that he may not complete the match.
The
You
match,
know,
yeah, that is another thing. Yeah, I'm not sure unless there's a good chance he might either withdraw or retire after 2 sets.
Hmm.
because he has a lot of tennis and he's prone to injuries. So we'll have to wait and see if Nishikori can dig deep and really. I think even winning one set
Yep.
would be a great
That
achievement. I
would be a
think
great achievement. And
he's
Yeah.
going
look,
to,
even
given the
before
condition.
this whole thing, we had Nadal and Nishikori. And if they played each other, we had Nadal as the favorite. And now you have to think, here's a guy who's
Yeah,
played two five-setters in a row,
Hmm.
and
yeah,
he's going to play 3 days in a row. I mean,
yeah,
so if we had Nadal as the overwhelming favorite before, now that's like almost certain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think so. We're going to get that Federer Nadal semi-final. I'm thinking
And
Yeah.
Friday.
yeah, but so all set for that. But
Right.
talking about the second side of the other side of the draws, and we have Djokovic versus Zverev, and we have Thiem versus Khachanov. A quick prediction on those guys, those two games
Okay,
matches.
so I'm going to
Yeah.
say it's going to be Djokovic and Hatsunov winning here. So it's going to be a Djokovic Hatsunov semifinal.
I think I pretty much agree with your Khachanov prediction because I saw him play last night. I'm quite impressed. I've seen the Paris final as well, where he beat Djokovic to win his first title.
Yeah.
And going by the looks of it and how he's performed this tournament, I think it can be only onwards and upwards. And like you said, the age factor is on his side, and there is plenty of time. So here's a guy who is looking to break through, get a breakthrough in the major Grand Slams now, in the Grand Slams. So, Prakash, anything more to add on the quarterfinal lineups then, the other two games?
Uh, I think I'll stick with him. I picked him to the semi-finals,
Hmm.
and I think yeah, Kachanov definitely. And as I told you, it's going to be conditions are going to help him a lot. Definitely, tomorrow seems to be like the worst of the days. I don't even know. Maybe they may not get to complete the matches tomorrow. I don't know how
Hmm.
bad the rain is forecast, but looking at the weather, I think it's going to be tough for Thiem. I think, but he's going to beat Kachanov, and I would pick a Djokovic Thiem semi-final.
That's good. So guys, we are everyone's looking forward to Federer versus Nadal in the semifinal, and um, Rajke says Khachanov versus Djokovic. Prakash says Thiem versus um, Djokovic, which you have to keep an eye on because these are bold predictions. But let's say two of them make it to the final. Then after what you have predicted in the quarterfinals, what potentially what do you see? Which final being set up here? Nadal versus Djokovic, Federer versus Djokovic, or how?
So,
So, I
yeah,
mean, in Nadal Federer semifinal here, you have to be a very brave person to pick Federer because,
Yeah.
after all, and we know about all the matchup issues. But as Prakash said, it's going to be a wet and a damp week. So Nadal's topspin doesn't kick up as high when the weather is wet and damp. So that's going to be a bit of an advantage for Federer. And last time the two played each other was most people would think it's 2008, but actually it's not. It's 2012. They played the final, and Federer played very
11,
well. Okay,
2011.
sorry, 2011, 2012.
Yeah,
Federer lost to Djokovic in the semifinal, but yeah,
same.
2011 final. Federer played very well. Okay, now people are going to say that Federer now is 37 years old. But we can't forget that Nadal is 33 years old too, right? I mean, this 4 year gap is always there. So
Yep.
now 37 against 33 now in terms of years. And in 2011, Federer was 29 and Nadal was 25,
Hmm.
right? Now you have to think which of these is a bigger difference, 25-year-old playing a 29-year-old or a 33-year-old playing a 37-year-old. And I think the 25-29 difference was higher. And in spite of that, Federer put up a great fight. He got a set. And on another day, he could have won the match. So I have to go with Nadal because this is clay and because of his record. But this is not a done deal. Federer is definitely going to have his chances. And I can see Federer winning. I
Hmm.
can easily see Federer winning, but I still predict Nadal.
Prakash, we've mentioned in the past that he has a five love record against Nadal now after his comeback. And do you think he'll be looking to make less damage there in the quarterfinals and then move on to grass because he doesn't want to risk his season then?
Okay.
Or is it the other way around that this is a Roger Federer who has nothing to prove and he's just
Right.
enjoying the tennis out there, the crowd's getting behind him and he's loving it out there?
All right. I would think the latter, because hard to see him. I don't think that's how they think. The champions, they would still think uh, Yeah, I'm thinking he is going to give it his all, and giving, of course, all subject to how physically he feels and everything looks like. Right now, everything is good, and so I think he's going to give it his all. And as I said, the conditions, we discussed that are going to help him. So he has a shot, but as I said, as Rajke said, I think we got to stick with Nadal there. He's the guy with the form, with the record, the history, everything on the surface. And let's hope we'll get a good match. And I hope, Federer can put up a fight. And
Yeah,
I think he will.
exactly.
But how close that would be, depends on the day. Let's see.
Do you
But
think
Yeah.
yeah, I
that
think I would pick Nadal.
if Wawrinka wins, the semi-final could be closer with Wawrinka playing Nadal, or do you think a Federer Nadal semi-final would be more keenly
Yeah,
contested?
it's a see that can go both ways, right? With Wawrinka, it's like very unpredictable. He's got like he could on his day, obviously, uh, on the at least the backhand side, he can handle things better than Federer. But then again, uh, how reliable, right? Like definitely is done this before, giving Rafa a tough time. But on clay, right?
Hmm.
I don't think he has troubled Nadal as much as he would have liked. He's so I'm thinking, yeah, Federer has a better chance against Nadal, when
Yeah, I
all
agree.
things considered. But of course, on his day, Wawrinka, yeah, it's very unpredictable with Wawrinka. But this time, I think I will trust Federer. First of all, I pick him obviously to beat Wawrinka. But even so, if Wawrinka beats Federer, I don't think he's going to do it in like straight sets like he did last time, and that would again mean that he's gone the distance what with Tsitsipas, right? And Dimitrov was a tough three setter. So, yeah, I don't see him troubling. I think, yeah, I would say Federer would trouble Nadal more than Wawrinka
And
will
for the
trouble.
Federer fans, and even for the three of us, let me throw in a scenario where I think Federer's senses are going to be amplified. It's a cold and damp day, and Federer starts off serving very well, and somehow manages to take the first set. And Nadal doesn't have a chance to get into his rhythm because there are a lot of rain interruptions, and the players keep going on and off. In that kind of a situation, if it's a rainy, damp day with a lot of interruptions, I think Federer's chances go up because he just comes back and starts serving very well. Nadal needs time to settle into a rhythm, and the more that rhythm is taken away from Nadal, the better it becomes for Federer.
Hmm. So,
True.
a great discussion then on the first four rounds. It's been a very good French Open. We can all agree to that. The Grand Slam ends this Sunday, and we'll have all our eyes on the final. I hope every one of you listening has enjoyed episode two. We are now available on the Google and Apple podcasts as well. Google podcast this week. We had a bit of a delayed uh, response from Google there. But anyway, we are on it now, and you can see the link at Roger Lever, who will be tweeting out both the episodes now. So, anything that you guys would like to add to end the episode here on the Tennis Galaxy podcast?
Well, I'd just like to say that this has been a very memorable French Open. The past few years, sometimes you could say it's been few incidents in the French Open, and the winner is almost a given because Nadal has been so dominant. But even we haven't had as many great matches as we've had this time. The Wawrinka Tsitsipas match was one for the ages. So if that's been the case so far, things are only going to become better in the second week. So I'd urge our listeners to make sure that they watch these wonderful matchups in the quarterfinal and potentially the semifinals as well.
Hmm. Hmm. True. True, and that brings us to the end of the podcast of on episode two of the Tennis Galaxy podcast. Like I said, keep an eye out on all the platforms we are available on, and apologies for the delay. But it's been wonderful talking to these two maestros, and I have had I've thoroughly enjoyed episode two as well. We just go on and get better in the coming episodes, and we will be putting out one episode a week, hopefully going out. We can't do a podcast every day, seeing the schedule and the matchups, because then the data might prove insufficient, or we'll have to use star marks there saying that conditions apply if so and so player plays so and so. So
No,
now
look,
we
our scheduling is better than Roland Garros. We don't schedule every day, we give a gap.
if the listener, if we can just get this to the organizers then and make them listen to this. No roof and nothing, and the players suffer there, and potentially good matchups get destroyed because the other player is
Exactly.
fatigued. Yeah. So Raj K has been savage as usual, and Prakash has been top as usual. Anything that you would like to ask us, do drop in your questions. We'll share a link below later on. And I hope you enjoy this podcast. We'll be back after the French Open final, the Roland Garros final, to discuss all the happenings and to see if our predictions went right or wrong, to weigh in those. Here's your host, Prasad, signing out with Raj K and Prakash.
Bye,
Hi,
guys.
Prasad. Thank you.